Hello, Steve White, Trickboy89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, Alex Kurtzman was at New York Comic Con. He made a surprise appearance. He wasn't planned to be there, but because the writers' strike ended, he's able to appear, because before that he wasn't going to be appearing, and it's a good thing because the writers and producers can actually talk about Star Trek, whereas before it was just actors basically talking about what they had for breakfast, because they couldn't talk about anything that Paramount produced, which of course is Star Trek. So it was good in a way, but I'm not the biggest Kurtzman fan. I don't think he really understands Star Trek and what makes it work, and I don't think he's doing the best job of yeah. So he gave an update on many things. Most interesting thing that he said seemed to refer to new projects that have been discussed, because there was a rumor that they were trying to that they weren't going to continue his contract, so they could get out of producing some shows that he wanted to do in the future and just finish off the shows that are being produced now and bring Paramount bring Star Trek back in house and do other shows. That was sort of the rumor. So they did seem to be based on the fact that he had been talking to people during the strike at Paramount, which he was. So at least they were based on something. But and there are new projects coming up. But it seems like he's going to be involved, but who knows. But either way, this is what he said. Read into it as you will. I have to say our friends at Paramount Plus have been unbelievable, truly unbelievable. They have supported all of these shows in the most extraordinary ways. I will tease that I did meet with everybody at the top of this week, so maybe it wasn't before, but I've already has spoken to them since. And there's a bunch of new things now in the works, which is really, really exciting. So there's no shortage of support from Paramount Plus for the Star Trek universe. Now, is that true? I don't know. Is he saying that because of the rumours, or is it just what happened? I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend like I know. I don't have any inside sources. I'm not going to pretend like I do. A few people say they do and talk about stuff, and I'll listen to them because most of it makes sense and seems interesting, but you never know if people are making things up for clicks, or they've been given the wrong information, or people are just telling them what they want to hear, because, you know, sometimes people like to be told what they want to hear. So that was one thing he said. Then he went on to say that basically Strange New Worlds Season 3 is back in production in the producer-writer side of things, and they're just waiting for the actors' strike to finish so they can commence filming. So they don't know exactly when they're going to start. Basically, the Monday after the actors' strike ends, I guess. They talked about Section 31, which I think is the worst idea that has ever been proposed for a Star Trek series and or movie, because it is the absolute antithesis of Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek Section 31. And Michelle Yeoh was much better as the original Captain Giorgio, who was an explorer and a scientist and an amazing captain. I'd rather them do a prequel series about her and her adventures before she died, rather than keep using the Mirror Universe character, which again is anti-Star Trek. But apparently Michelle Yeoh has used her newfound Academy Award winning actress power in Hollywood to keep the show on track, the movie on track, because now it's a TV movie, not a miniseries or limited series or anything like that. And again, they have the writing producing side of it sort of is continuing on, or sort of sorted, and they're just waiting for the actors' strike to end so she can just come and do the film. So I don't know exactly. We don't know when that's going to happen, if that'll be the first project she moves on with, or if something else will be maybe lined up better to go straight into that, and maybe it'll get pushed back or something. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not pretending to know. But he basically said it's basically waiting for it to come. And the other thing they talked about, of course, was Starfleet Academy. Now, I like the idea of a Starfleet Academy show, but the problem is they're doing it in the post-Discovery 31st century setting, which is the wrong setting. What they needed to be doing is doing it in the Picard era or the original Star Trek era, and show original characters, familiar characters like Kirk and Spock or Picard at Starfleet Academy, seeing younger versions of them, which will then lead into and promote the other Star Trek shows, the other shows in the franchise. Not create a new bunch of characters in a century that no one knows anything about, that doesn't make any sense, because you cannot realistically portray the 31st century when they jumped from the 22nd century to the 31st century, it was not believable. It didn't make sense. It's like a century of technology and advancement, and all we got was programmable matter and ships with separate nacelles. It just doesn't work, and they're going to take what was a good idea and ruin it by putting it in the wrong setting. So really upset about that. He's saying it's a fun show. It's really, really fun. It's sort of aimed at a new generation of kids, and it's kind of condescending that they're like, well, we have to cater to them because they're not intelligent enough to watch an adult show, so we have to make a teen show. It's being produced and written by the lady who worked on the new Nancy Drew show, which I watched, which I kind of liked. So there's some hope there, but it's the wrong setting. Ultimately, it's not going to work. I don't think setting a show on Earth and making it all about relatable teen problems is going to equate to Star Trek fans and people then following on from that show and watching other Star Trek shows and being... I don't think it's going to bring people into the franchise. It's going to be its own separate thing because it's so far removed from all the other Star Treks by the time, the setting, and also, you know, that it's a teen drama. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe, you know, they'll be doing a lot of, you know, training missions on ships, and it'll still have a very Star Trek mission sort of feel about it, rather than being just, you know, like a high school drama set on Earth, which will be also very cheap to produce because they can just use like practical settings and dress them up to look like the Academy, like they did in Picard, very cheap. So I don't know, but again, it's waiting for the actors to come. I think it's probably less developed and less evolved than the other shows and other things that they've got in production, but by the time the actors strike finally ends, I'm assuming it'll be ready to go like the other shows. So they'll probably be having to sort of juggle which show goes into production first, because they're probably planning to stagger them, but because of the writer strike and now the actors strike, they're all waiting. They'll probably all be ready at the same time when the actors are available. So I don't know how they're going to manage that, but and I'm very curious what these new shows are going to be. These new movies or shows. There's talk that they're finally going to do Star Trek 4, but they keep saying that every few months just to keep it alive, but nothing actually happens movement-wise. And yeah, the rumour was that they were going to be not renewing KurtzMan's contract, and they were going to be bringing Star Trek back in-house at Paramount Plus and doing new shows that are based more in the one time and the one universe and the one timeline. Maybe two, because they feel like Star Trek is too confusing because it's spread out too thin, and that's KurtzMan's approach. Just do different shows about different people, different elements of Star Trek, different audiences, and just try and get everyone and bring them all into Star Trek, like that's going to unify them somehow, like it's all under one banner. But they're doing different shows for different audiences who are all coming in for different reasons, and I'm not sure as an approach it's actually going to work for Star Trek as a franchise as a whole. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any faith in Kurtzman. Like, I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he's trying to damage Star Trek. A lot of people literally believe he's like trying to destroy their Star Trek and all that. It's just rubbish. It's just paranoia and hate, you know, just, you know, for clicks and giggles, and it's just really ridiculous. But I also don't think he's actually a good showrunner. Technically, he's a good showrunner and so forth. Like, but he doesn't get Star Trek. He never watched it. He was never a fan. He said that in interviews in the past. He doesn't say it now, but he said it in the past. He was the straight man to Rick Orsi's Star Trek fan when they were producing the first Star Trek film. He was there to balance. The idea was they were going to have a writer who knew Star Trek and a writer who didn't know Star Trek. So between the two of them, they would make a Star Trek that would be not too Star Trek-y, that would appeal to the general audience. And then they got rid of Orsi because he was too much of a Star Trek fan, that he was pushing for Star Trek movies and, you know, to be Star Trek. And they, for some reason, because less of these people involved were actual Star Trek fans, they were more normies, they basically rejected him, pushed him out, and gave the whole thing to Kurtzman, who knew nothing about Star Trek. And he was there as the counterbalance to the Star Trek fan, because they didn't want it to be too Trekky. Literally, they said too Trekky. It was in interviews when they got rid of Kurtzman, because not Kurtzman. Freudian slip there, wishful thinking. When they got rid of Orsi, and I was there when that happened because I was in the Trek movie chat where he'd go into Trek movie a lot and talk to fans, but he was having a confrontation. He was abusive to fans, and not long after that he got fired. And it was allegedly for two reasons. One, because the script he wrote for Star Trek 3 was too Star Trek-y, and because of how he treated the fans and the negative response, and then they gave everything to KurtzMan, and we know how that went. And people forget how it was all set up and how it was all designed and how it went, but us who were around at the time understand the situation that we're in with KurtzMan. And I don't think he's a bad person. I'm sure he's got the best intentions, but he doesn't know Star Trek, and his approach is just spreading Star Trek too thin, and it's not working. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. This is not meant to be a 10-minute video.